Hi, welcome in everyone, and thank you so much for joining us. I can see everyone filtering in. I can see some people saying where they're tuning in from the chat, so please do let us know. But thank you all for joining us for our award hour for June. And so today, as you would have seen once you signed up, we are going to be talking about merit cycles, and specifically what they look like in practice rather than on paper. And I'm really, really excited to have two brilliant guests from our reward community join us today to take us through just that. We have Ekaterina Potter, Global Director of Reward and Belonging at commercetools, and we have Daniela Cerna, Global Compensation and Benefits Lead at Aeven. I'll pass over to you both for a quick introduction, and then we can dive right in. Daniela, would you like to go first?
Oh, yeah, thank you. Hi everyone. I'm really happy to be here with you and share my thoughts and ideas about the merit cycle that we finished a few months ago. I actually, this year, it is my 30th year in HR, which is wow. When I realized that, I was like, oh, I'm pretty old now. Well, yeah. So half of my career I spent on the other side of HR in the competencies development and building, like the talent management, learning, etc. And the second half, then I joined the compensation part, the hard one, and I really love it. So I can talk about that ages, let's say. I spent some part of my career also as the external consultant in the area of compensation and benefits, and also as the assistant professor at the University of Economics and Business here in Prague. And now I'm a global content lead in Aeven, which is the global IT company. So that's me. What about you, Ekaterina?
Hi, Daniela, Danica. Hi, everyone. Super nice to be here in the Radio studio again. I hope you all have a nice morning, afternoon. I've seen people from Brazil, so it's still early morning, I suppose. And you're enjoying the heat if you're on the European continent. So I'm Ekaterina Potter. I'm the Global Director for Rewards and Belonging at commercetools. We are a globally distributed SaaS market leader in e-commerce software. And I need to say I'm joining Daniela's club because I realized now I've been working full-time in the people team since 2005. So it's already a very long time in the industry, and I've been in the compensation benefits industry since then. So a lot of experience, but also it makes me feel pretty old, frankly speaking. I worked in a variety of companies, from big corporations to small startups and scale-ups. But I think in the last maybe 12, 15 years, it has probably mostly been tech industry, scale-up business phase of a company. And I really enjoy it. And I think even during our conversation today, you will find out why. Because like even if you take merit cycle, which is only one project, it's never completely pure and pristine. There is always some iteration, there always some change, and this concerns the whole area of total rewards. We always iterate, and I hope we always make it better for our team members in the companies. So really nice to be here.
Amazing. Thank you both so much for being here as well. And yeah, a lot of experience between the two, and I'm sure we're going to get into a lot of that today. And for those of you that don't know me, my name is Danica. I'm our community manager here at Ravio. I run our reward room community that Daniela and Ekaterina are fantastic members of. And Ravio is on a mission to make compensation as less painful as possible for anyone that thinks about compensation or in reward. So merit cycles are one of the most involved things that kind of reward team are in. And as Ekaterina very well put, that they rarely go to plan, right? And today isn't about best practice and a walkthrough through that. It's really about a retro of what went well, what didn't, what did the process look like, what broke, and what you might be changing moving forward for the next one. And you both have come from, different environments, but I know where we've spoken before kind of hit similar challenges or ran into similar walls. And like we said, the aim of today's conversation is to have a very honest one and talk about the gap between, how the process was designed and in comparison to how it actually ran. So before we start, I would love to open a poll up to everyone here. So I'm just going to pop it on the screen. So you will see it on your screen at the moment. So we would love to know where you are right now with your merit cycle. So have you just finished one? You're in your mid cycle right now. You're planning your next one, rebuilding from scratch, or you're just here to learn. It would be really great to understand where people are at the moment. So a relatively even split between the top three, I'd probably say, or people are planning at the moment. It's kind of edging ahead. Fantastic. So all kind of a mixed bag of where people are at the moment. I'm going to just take that off the screen. There we go. And so merit cycles, I feel, are trying to do several things at once. You can reward past performance, retain key people, maybe even correct market drift. And most of the time that is fine. But when budget is tight, those priorities can probably pull in different directions, and something has to win or something has to lose in that scenario. So Ekaterina, I want to kind of start with that and start with you in that section. So when you think about your merit cycle and what you're trying to do within that merit cycle, is it something that you kind of write down and agree, or is it something that is more understood within the organization? So yeah, I'm going to hand over to you both. I'm going to pop off the screen. I'll be back later, but I'll leave the whole audience in very capable hands. So over to you both.
Thanks very much, Danica. So at commercetools, we always have a very clearly defined process, very disciplined. Of course, a lot of it is also written down, but it grows into becoming an understanding for our employees and for our managers. And slowly but surely, the language that we speak in Total Rewards also becomes known to our workforce, the staff, the managers, and everyone who is in. We start working on our merit cycle way in advance. We launch it in February, but we work on that already from October through the budgeting process that concerns the whole company. I've been now with the company for 3 merit cycles now. This is how I measure my tenure, actually. We have annual cycles. And where we shifted in our philosophy is to make it less legacy, less discretionary, and more data-driven and really disciplined. So we really wanted to make sure that a bigger proportion of managers is involved in the cycle every year on year. And we wanted to make sure that we have data underpinning the decisions that managers meet with regards to compensation increases. There are not too many moments in the year when those compensation decisions are taken, and we want to make sure that they reflect what there is a need to fix, to improve, to make better. So our compensation review before I joined the company was more like of a profit-sharing moment in the past. And what we introduced was, we introduced the whole compensation framework. We've introduced the new salary ranges. We anchored our salary midpoints to a certain position in the market for all of our roles. We used rigorous SaaS benchmarks for that. We've built a strict performance by position and range matrix. This is all, I think, gold standard. I think, Daniela, you would confirm as well, in Total Rewards, and nothing pioneering. But we hadn't had that in place, and we wanted to put that in place so that we could really make sure that we can address the gaps, that we can measure and then address the gaps. So what we also introduced was a very overarching job architecture in our company. We used to have already a very good leveling approach in many of our departments. What we did was we put it together, we did calibration across all the departments, and then we can build the compensation framework with the salary ranges for every role on top of that. And apart from that, and the kudos goes not just to the Total Rewards department or team in commercetools, but to the whole people team, because it really is a collective work. On top of that, what we really needed to do is, of course, a very solid performance management process, because without that, the merit cycle cannot really be out there in place. So we worked together with our other colleagues. We made it a very disciplined approach that drives on data. And in terms of philosophy, as Danica mentioned, it is all about multiple demands on a finite budget. there is that envelope of money that we define pretty early in the process together with finance. It's a double-way road. They bring us what they think the company can afford, and we bring into the conversation what we think we need to do for us to stay competitive, for us to close the gaps, to make sure that we have long-tenured employees rewarded properly, to make sure that we don't have any gender pay gaps and any other gaps. And so we try to use every merit cycle to kill as many birds with one stone as possible. But of course, this is exactly what the tension is, because the budget is limited in every organization. And at the same time, I should say that if the compensation cycle in your company leaves every single manager completely happy, maybe I don't have such good news for you. Maybe you didn't actually have a very clear strategy. And maybe the budget has been distributed in the peanut butter model designed to just avoid conflict. So we don't typically read that in the Total Rewards textbooks, because reading a proper framework sometimes makes you take a very firm position. Maybe sometimes it's saying no, maybe sometimes it is creating some tension, but it is really something that I've experienced once again and again. And in this last cycle, we had two specific areas where we saw that tension. One is that we used the lump sum one-time payments instead of salary increases for those people who are currently above the maximum of our salary range. And we can discuss that also later during our conversation. This is a hard line, and this is not very comfortable conversations when the manager needs to deliver that news to, especially a top performer who is already very well remunerated based on our framework. So this is area number one. And second, we also faced an inevitable question from our managers: what is about inflation? Don't we compensate for that? And our stance was also pretty direct. Our compensation reflects the local cost of labor, not the cost of living. We don't index to CPI, and managers, of course, try to push back on that. So they see that we give them the budget autonomy, but they want to bypass it somehow. And then they start arguing for things like locations with high inflation, and we need to be very strict about that. And how we go about that is we set expectations before day one. So we pair people, business partners responsible for those departments to conduct line-and-line enablement before managers logging into the spreadsheet or into the system where the merit cycle is conducted. And we teach them the exact data-drivenness of it, why we are setting this up this year this way. And I think this avoids the endless discussions. It never completely removes the discussions and tough conversations, but it does equip our managers with the right framework to have that courage to make a comp decision and also then to defend the comp decision at the end of the day. Another brief point I wanted to mention, Danica asked what is in scope of our merit cycle typically. And I want to say that commercetools is one of those organizations, there are not too many of them, where promotions can happen throughout the year. So this is really great. We really value the feature that we've introduced, that managers can promote their employees at any time throughout the year. But it does create a bit of a problem during the merit cycle, because let's be honest, what happens in the real world is managers do not care about our finance buckets. This is for merit, this is for promotion. So there is a people leader under pressure, there is money, he suddenly or she sees, okay, the merit cycle is launched, there is that bucket of money, and they conceive of that as a single pool of capital to retain their best people, to promote their top performers, and so on and so forth. So this confronted us again heads on, and we've seen about 75% spike in promotion demand at the exact time of the merit cycle, exactly when we were trying to allocate already a tight merit budget. So it was a struggle. And I just want to say that a merit cycle is, it's something where you need to look how it goes and improve for the better next year. we've managed to maintain our target merit increase and to promote those people that huge demand in promotions, because we harvested savings from some attrition and we squeezed every euro out of the total envelope. We made it work, but I was just amazed at the tension of trying to run these processes separately, because actually what needs to happen is that those processes, that they converge dynamically, and we will improve on that. And I think my main lesson is, don't fight manager behavior. If you see that this is happening, try to build frameworks that capture what they will try to do, and they will inevitably try to do that, make promotions and merit cycles work in the same time frame. So for me, this is what I learned over this couple of years at commercetools.
Just my question, you manage it all around the world in many countries, right?
Yes, correct.
And do you somehow observe any difference in behaviors, let's say, of managers across the countries, or is it the same, or do you have the same common framework that everyone should follow?
Our framework is global and applicable to our locations everywhere. And I would not say that we have divergent manager behavior in terms of locations. We do have sometimes questions with regards to highly skilled employees sitting in remote locations, not in capital cities, maybe in countries with lower cost of living, and some managers arguing that they need to be paid on par with the same highly skilled employees in very expensive locations. But this is also a special point that we can touch upon, Daniela, a little bit later. But I would say our managers are pretty aligned in terms of the expectations and how to approach this. But also towards you, I mean, this layer of complexity, you are also managing this across many countries. You are based in the headquarters, as I know. Do you have a single philosophy, or like how does that apply across the many markets?
Yeah. So basically, two things. We have the global philosophy, which is valid and has been valid for many years. So that's something that is written in our internal rules, etc. However, that was something that I wanted to probably mention or highlight, that in each country where we are located, there is different, let's say, market standard. And also the culture can definitely influence the way how managers think about their teams, how they are used to do the merit cycle or the merit increases, etc. I spent with this company, it's like 8 years. Originally, I only worked for the Czech branch here in Prague, which is not the headquarter. So I'm based not in the headquarter, but currently I'm leading the global function, which is somehow a bit more complex or difficult, let's say, because you have to manage the cycle from outside of the hearth of the company, and be able to discuss it with the senior executive leadership team, onboard them on time, discuss it with finance, which I consider really crucial during the process. You mentioned that you start your merit cycle in October, so you have it in your budget. So that's the same for me. But this is something that is pretty difficult to be located outside the headquarter and influence that process correctly. So that's one thing. From the strategy point of view or the philosophy, I think all the merit cycles run basically very similar. You want to retain the key people, the critical ones, the knowledge holders, the customer oriented people, etc. You also want to keep your talented people and high performers, and also you want to maintain all balance, pay equity, so you really pay fair, and maintain also market competitiveness, which is something that is a bit scary these
Yeah.
days. When I see the market movements quarter by quarter, it's something that I cannot imagine that will happen over next few years. Then then every budget will be definitely insufficient. So to cover all the gaps. But yes, this is something that also we want to achieve. I have to mention that in our company we do not have a single source of the data, employee related data, because we have pretty old system where we store the data, but many things are kind of fragmented. So my merit tool that I developed uh, collects all the data all together, what you can imagine. Uh, uh, all the allowances, all the promotions, the history, performance, talent, etc. So everything I put together, so the manager has it in one place.
Mhm.
So sometimes it's also used for other decisions of managers, not just during the merit cycle, but also during the year, because that's simply a single source of truth now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So to answer your question, yes, we do have the global philosophy that is valid for everyone, and I mean for all the countries, but also we somehow try to mirror or accept the culture differences among the countries, which is sometimes a challenge, to be honest. But when you have the philosophy, Ekaterina, then you have to somehow mirror it or build the process around that, right? So
Correct. Yeah.
yeah, what is the process steps, and does it really work well for everyone? And do you stick with the process?
Yes, we do stick with the process. We need to stick with the process for us to make sure that we meet the communicated deadlines, that we maintain the promise to the employees in terms of the changes applicable in payroll and all of that. So we run our cycle in phases. I think, like most companies that have a significant number of employees, we have a certain population of managers who are compensation planners. And actually, I wanted to mention that this is one of the changes from that I observed here at commercetools. It used to be run by executives, so the department heads, the leaders of the departments, for the whole population of commercetools 3 years ago. And I think this creates an issue. I mean, I think it's a sustainable way for a small company, a small startup, almost a family feeling. And in good years, in good times, as I mentioned, it's almost like a profit sharing situation rather than a compensation review. But it becomes less and less sustainable when you have a certain threshold from the psychological organizational development perspective. Managers on the ground know their employees the best, rather than somebody who is removed 2 or 3 hierarchy levels. So we tried to increase the participation of managers throughout these 3 years at commercetools in the compensation review. By the way, I've seen a question from Michael. He said, "Is merit the right phrase, the right notion?" And I completely agree. Like in our company, officially, I would call it compensation review, because it's not only merit that we reward during this process. Mostly it's about merit, so mostly it's about performance looking back for the last year, but also it's about adjustments, it's about filling in the gaps. So I prefer the fuller version of compensation review for this process.
Yeah,
Yeah, what about you?
yeah. We just wanted to have different naming compared to the past, because originally it was called organizational review, where all that happened just based on the feeling of the manager. And we just wanted to highlight now it's going to run differently. So now we are using merit cycle. Everyone knows what does it really mean, and it covers also the forward looking, like you mentioned the promotion, for example. So we do majority of our promotions during the merit cycle. So looking forward also to reward and retain those people who are promoted and reward them fair. So yeah, that's our reason why we call it merit. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we have one question.
We already have a few questions, actually.
Yeah, so let's look into that.
Yeah, let's look into that, because that's actually
Okay.
what it's all about.
Yes, of course. So yeah, I think that's from Dominic. It's for me. You mentioned that the priority is to retain talent and top performers, but maintain the competitiveness. If merit budgets are constrained, how do you decide when it's appropriate to prioritize bringing the wider population to market levels over? Yeah. So basically what we do, we of course we work with the comp ratio. So if there are people who are underpaid and we can see that their performance is really good or they are overachieving, definitely we want to take them to the market level or to into the ranges. So that's the priority number one. But also uh, because we are using the merit metrics, which is pretty useful, I would say, but also common. So if you have high performer or talent, uh, definitely the metrics decides or recommends higher range for the salary increase, which means they will get more than the other ones. So hopefully this answers the
Exactly.
question. Yeah.
It's exactly the same with us, that performance by position and range metrics is, we mentioned that already, gold standard, really is very logical. The person who is the best performer but lowest in the range deserves a higher percentage increase and vice versa. And I think once you introduce that, I think it's speaking a little bit to some of the questions that I've kind of skimmed through right now. It is very logical for managers. They actually welcome a framework when you say, these are the rules by which we want to play this cycle, this year, for instance. I think most managers can get on board with that because they see the logic behind it. It's not something invented that is unreasonable. It is very logical. You have a team of 10, you have some great performers who maybe have joined 7 years ago, their compensation hasn't caught up, you need to give them a higher increase. It is recommended. We recommend that this happens because this will solve some of the problems upfront for those managers. So I think we apply a similar approach, but I wanted to mention with regards to the question from Gina, at what stage does pay equity enter the conversation? Is it a pre-cycle audit that shapes budgets or post-cycle check, generally embedded in the recommendation itself? This is an excellent question, and this is something that we at commercetools do in advance of the merit cycle, well in advance. For instance, let's take maybe gender pay gap. We launch our cycle around about February time. From October, we start working on the budgeting process broadly at the company. And during that process, we also work with our people team and people business partners and with the data to identify the significant gaps in terms of pay in different teams. I've already mentioned long-tenured employees. This is a classic problem in the tech industry, where you have people who are the strongest performers, know our product the best, have been here for a while. If you bring a newcomer, they might be brilliant, but they still need to learn about commercetools, about our product and everything. And those newcomers come at compensation that long-tenured, very wonderful employee needs years to catch up with, because simply they joined at a time where compensation wasn't at this stage. And so what we do, we preemptively look at these gaps. We crunch the data, analyze, and discuss it with managers, and allocate infusions of money into those teams where we saw there is a gender pay gap, or there is an adjustment that's needed because of the tenure. And sometimes that happens a little bit more rarely because our salary range refresh hasn't happened yet. Sometimes it could also be the market has shifted up so much, or for particular roles, maybe in some locations, then it's also recommended to at least be aware of it in advance of the cycle. So that's how we do it. I think it is very useful to be aware and try to plan in financially.
Yeah, that's something that also we want to look into in advance, and we do that continuously throughout the year. Um, um, However, because the budgets are so limited, last years, we have to somehow maintain the budget really consciously. So we look, and that probably also answers the previous question from Dominic. We try to limit the budget spent for those people who are quite well paid, or who's got, for example, salary increase during last 6 months. So because it might happen that they were hired in November and the salary cycle happens in March. So that's why we do not increase their salary. Or during the hiring process, they agreed that they will get some KPI-driven salary increase after a few months of working with us. So then, of course, if it happened last 3 months, let's say, so they are not eligible for any salary increase. So these kind of mechanisms can help us also to build some extra budget for covering those gaps, which
And
is
you know,
really,
it's also,
yeah, sorry.
yeah, no. I just wanted to add, it's not set in stone, right? Like if this year we could not really do the best for maybe our very highly remunerated employees who are, for instance, solid and top performers. I've mentioned that we've introduced this approach last year where we allocate one-time payments to our people above the range. Maybe we've done it because that was the best way due to the bigger gaps on the other side of the spectrum. But it doesn't mean that we're going to stick with that. We need to review it. We actually had a fight from the managers. They're not keen to conduct those conversations. Imagine you hired a brilliant employee and you hired them expensively. You brought them into the company. It was your decision to hire a person already maybe approaching the high in the spectrum of the range, and then they're also top performer, and you cannot actually give them a salary increase. Of course, it's uncomfortable. So this might, we made it work this year, we made it work last year, but next year maybe we'll jump into that problem and address that first. So we always need to run like post-mortem, as we call it, or retro. And we also, for instance, in our company, we also send out a questionnaire to our compensation planners to give us feedback. What worked well? What do you think we should improve? We will try our best. We'll never be like completely on top of everything simply because we don't possess limitless resources, but we could always address problem by problem in different years.
Yeah. And you mentioned something that I really want to highlight again, that the managers are responsible. They are responsible for running the business and also for the budget spending, right? So this is their decision. We, from my point of view, we we bring them the tools, the environment, recommendations. We can help them or facilitate the process, but the final decision lies with them.
Yes, it's the same with us.
Sometimes it happens when the manager is junior, let's say, that they tend to spread the money equally to all the team members to make everyone happy. But then, of course, the difference, the unfair treatment then rises, right? Because it's like they feel it if and they, I mean, the team members know who is underperforming and who is the top performer, and if everyone gets the same, then it really brings a problem. So this is the role of HR or HR business partners to facilitate this and discuss it and bring back on the table and push managers to make it better.
It's the same with us. We give managers the final autonomy on how to distribute those funds. We give them this guidelines and framework. But yeah, I mean, like, if we were to run it completely by the numbers, by the guide, by the metrics, then we don't need the managers anymore. So it's like we also understand that the spreadsheet will not see all the nuance, right? Maybe there is an employee that shifted their attitude mid-year, or there is a new team member who took on some heavy lifting in quarter 4 or something. So we need to give that autonomy to the managers, but we also need to ask them for accountability. We really need to see, are you kind of like, are you staying within the budget? So this is the ultimate fiscal guardrail. You could override the guidelines that we've given, but on the top of the house, for a big department, we ask our C-level to stay within the budget for their broad department. I think it addresses one of the questions that we have in the chat. Managers can overspend, override, but the total spend for the big department needs to kind of stay within that predefined budget. So the C-suite can redistribute the funds between the teams, but every single team might overspend, and we also require a formal justification.
Exactly. That was what I wanted to mention, to have it justified correctly, not just because he is really nice person and I like to work with him, but really to have it supported by some data, KPIs, whatever was the extra mile the person went.
Yeah.
So that's something that is really critical, also with the pay gap or transparency directive that is coming into the force or is already in place, right? So to have this.
We have one question with 3 votes from Claudia. Maybe we could look at that, giving priority to the bigger votes. What performance factors do you use to make compensation decisions, and are they working for everyone, different departments? Are you expecting any changes in the light of the EU PTD, equity, objective, justifiable criteria? Well, I could start. We have a very set, established performance management system. It is working in the same way for all of our departments. It's based on the goal setting. And in those jobs, which are the majority of the jobs where we have go-to-market roles, we have, of course, like very strict KPIs. We try to make KPIs as concrete as possible. And we have a feedback-based performance management system where we can have a check-in with our manager at any time, and the manager can do that with their team members. And then we have 2 focal points in the year: the mid-year review, which is more about like looking forward, what else do we want to achieve this year? How can we jump right into it? And the end of year review, where there is a review of how the year went, what happened to the goals, have we achieved our KPIs. We have a very stringent calibration process in every department, and this is not just a formality. I can assure you it is sometimes uncomfortable to be in the calibration. Typically, the leadership team of a particular department gets together, and every employee's achievements, strong points, maybe some gaps are reviewed line by line. And this is where that systematic review happens. It is a very tough exercise, but it helps us to be on par, on top of our budget when we go into the compensation review. So this is how we run it in terms of the performance factors. They inform our comp review, of course, because this is part of the merit matrix.
Well, and I'm coming from the other part of the universe where we have it just not that well designed, let's say it, nice words. Because originally, as I mentioned, the salary increases were originally based just on feelings, justified by the sentence like, "Oh, he is really nice guy, he deserves that." Now, over the last, let's say, 3 years, 3 cycles that are running, that were run globally, we are at least trying to introduce some kind of performance review, pushing managers. Okay, so not everyone is the excellent performer. Not everyone is loser. You have to distinguish in your team, at least using the scale 1 to 3. And of course, we have the description. What does it mean, really? But still, it's a bit. Yeah, it's like the minimum that we can do to get the performance evaluated. So, and this is what definitely we need to, and we want to change somehow. Also, this year we introduced the talent metrics. We call it people review, which means not only performance is important for the company, but also the potential to grow to future more important roles, more complex roles. And then we tried to calibrate that, and that was another learning for us, because as a global company, we wanted to run the calibration globally, in across the borders, let's say. But yeah, it was pretty difficult, especially for the higher echelons of the leaders,
Mm-hmm.
to measure it the same way or calibrate them the same way. So for to be honest, for managers from Denmark, for example, high performance means definitely uh, something very different compared to the Czech or Filipinian or Hungarian
Correct.
managers.
Yeah.
And this is based on the culture, definitely.
Yeah.
So this kind of learnings I am taking from this round of the merit cycle, just to understand and calibrate on what does it really mean good performance.
Mm-hmm, exactly. Yeah, this is an excellent point. Good performance and having that bar very high.
Yeah.
This is different in the perception of different minds, cultures, and also from individual to individual that differs. And this is what that calibration process needs to balance out, so that we have that our metrics, our merit metrics, can work in different departments. Because if you don't run the calibration, some departments will be with 30% of top performance and other departments will be with 7% of top performance, depending on the experience of managers and everything. And this will create problems downstream. Yeah.
Absolutely. And also, so giving the framework of the expectation is that the stars or future stars, high performers, are just, let's say, 10 to 15% of the company at maximum. Then it helps to somehow navigate the managers also
Yeah.
having it
This,
correctly. Yeah.
Daniela, I think on this point we can talk for hours actually on
Yeah.
this 10-15 kind of percentage. As soon as we enter that territory, I think our conversation can go on forever. I noticed that you have another question that has 3 words. How do you approach the introduction of salary bands internally in an established organization where there hasn't been that level of transparency from day one?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I will start with a very simple, I think it's almost a predictable answer. First of all, we need to have a solid job architecture in place. So this would be the very, very foundational process to go through. Maybe it's already in place, which would be great news. A company of 300 employees without a job architecture, this is creating a lot of problems for the future. So we cannot set up salary ranges until we have that system of leveling criteria. And you could decide as the organization, do you want to do it skills based? Do you want to do it competencies based? My advice is to go down the route of old school structures based on competence. Don't over engineer it, create a simple structure. The most important thing is really to identify what the jump should be qualitatively from one job level to the next.
Absolutely.
Try to build that, maybe not too many job levels. And like if you differentiate what a senior software engineer is about as compared to software engineer, you've already made progress. So that's number one. And from that, I think the best way is actually to work top down. I don't know, Daniela, how you do it, but how I've done it in companies where this hasn't been in place, the salary framework. I give a big, heavy dose of data and the reason why to the executives. So they need to understand why we need the bands. And mainly I go through it via the how can we scale without having this in place. Are you really keen to have individual customized conversations the whole time in the future? Imagine you are 300 people right now, but you might be 3,000 a few years. I've been in a company that worked like from 800 to 3,000 within 2 years. What's about 30,000? You cannot operate that anymore without those structures. So I would go into the top management level so that they don't get confused or defensive, and explain to them that a company cannot scale without having that system, not culturally and also not fiscally, of course. You will be so much better suited by introducing a system as early as possible in the evolution of your company. What about you, Daniela? How did you do it?
Well, I inherited some structure which was really good and well prepared. On the other hand, I really led discussions with managers, just calibrating if it really works well for them, if the levels or grades are correct from their point of view, like discussing, calibrating the metrics, let's say. So that's something that I did. And currently, we are building the job architecture with the job families, and this is just an ongoing process. And because we are undergoing a huge organizational change currently, so I will reopen that, and definitely I will discuss it with the top managers, like what are the future needs. Do the levels still are the levels of jobs still valid? Do you need them, or should we change that? So that's something that I'm currently working on. But once I think we have to also look into not just into the questions, but probably follow the process, because you calibrated the results, right? The proposals during the process, but when you have the calibrated performance levels, let's say, how do you convert them into the real numbers? And are there any tough conversations that you have to have around that? How it
Yeah,
works in your company?
yeah. So once we have the performance ratings and the calibration is over, we are at the same time, around this time in the year, we also have the final envelope of investment that is available for the compensation review. So that happens in parallel. Performance management takes its course, and in parallel, the total rewards team works on identifying the budget. We want to target a particular increase, a particular percentage increase. We want to make sure that this increase is on par with companies in our industry. And from that, we build a model, a financial model of what it means in terms of the distribution for our performance distribution, what would kind of increases be, so that we can populate that metrics, right? So that performance by position and range metrics represents that diagonal shift from top performer being low in the range and so on. And this is how we build the numbers. And we typically give managers in each of those little boxes in the merit matrix, we give them a range, not necessarily an exact number, but a range. It could be 3 to 4%. It could be 5 to 7%. It could be 0 to 2%, depending on where your team members are in terms of where they sit in the range and how they perform. So this is how we approach it. We just need to make sure that that envelope of money gets distributed in that model properly. And then we feed that to the managers. We say, this is our increase proposition to you. You may stick to that. You might have some context that I don't have. Sitting in the total rewards team, you are the manager. And so again, back to the question to the issue of manager autonomy, here's a spectrum of, if you stick to this model, you will come out in the green. So you won't overspend your budget. You will spend to the last cent and you'll be fine. But we don't know everything, and managers need to have the final decision.
Yeah, that's exactly how we try to manage it. But unfortunately, there are some managers that really don't want to respect, let's say, this recommendation, and they try to get over or below also,
Yeah.
which I consider even worse. If someone is, from my point of view, like from sitting in comp eligible for the salary increase because of they are underpaid and well performing, and the manager decides not to increase the salary to that person, so that's like exclamation mark for me. Why? What's happening? Why the person is evaluated like high performer, now you are giving them 0. What is the message to the person? It's unfair, etc. I really would like to avoid this next year, because that's my learning. Giving it's absolutely okay to give the managers the autonomy to decide. However, it brings also this risk of unfair treatment that needs to be highlighted. Definitely. So,
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
yeah.
Same here.
And then what we introduced also might be an interesting tool. We introduced also so-called wish list. So the manager simply spends the budget available to him or her, but still they can see that there are some people that desire a salary increase based on the performance or the reality, but they are not able to increase that. So they put the person on the wish list with the priority 1 to whatever, and put the comment there that is really like justifying this request, and then on the top management level we decide whether they will get some extra money or not from
I think that's a very good idea. Yeah, to have that running rooster of issues to look at as soon as some more budget is available. If you have enough of those, maybe we will even argue for an off-cycle adjustment sometimes in the middle of the year. Like typically in our company, I advise managers not to promise future rewards. Like this is something that I really advise against. Don't promise future awards, but tell the people team, people business partner, tell the total rewards team that, hey, in my team, I have a lot of long-tenured employees, or I have a lot of gaps because I have new people coming on board with way more competitive salary. I've had these conversations before, and I also put it on my mental list to make sure that we build that into the budget at least next year, if not sooner. It would be nice sooner, but sometimes it doesn't work. So this is how we approach it. And also what I find useful in terms of managers maybe sometimes overstepping or not going by the guideline, ultimately it's going to be the individual direct manager who communicates the compensation change to the employee. So this makes them being involved. This makes them think about how are they going to justify their decision. Sometimes employees can have emotional reactions even during that conversation, and so you need to be prepared for that individual conversation. From the rewards team, what we do is we actually provide our managers literally sound bites, like bullet points of conversation parts, like sentences that they can use for different scenarios. For the scenario of only getting a lump sum instead of a salary increase, for the scenario of not giving somebody a salary increase at all. So we try to help our managers as much as possible, but at one point, they are mandated to run those conversations, and they have to plan for that very carefully.
And that's something that some of them probably do not realize, that they have to communicate to the person that sorry, 0 means 0, and here is the reason. Do you have the managers similar to our company? Just few cases, but they decided not to give the employee the increase. But once the employee raises the hand and asks, "Hey, what's the reason behind this decision?" they sent them to the HR department. Like,
Exactly this, I don't recall it from this cycle, but I think it's possible, and I've had this in my career, where managers justify their decision with, well, this is what I was told to do, or, well, this
yeah,
is what the rewards team asked me or is asking of us, or, well, it's just like the money is not enough for everything. So I have had that, and I try to veer managers away from this advice. So, like, my approach is that they stand up and to their decision, like they make it their own, instead of maybe blaming the company or the revenue or the people department for some gaps, that they actually own their decision and can explain it well. It's not always working perfectly. I think it takes trust. It takes time to build that trust for the managers to become the owners of the merit cycle, and think of the company like almost like a CEO. You know that sentence, think like you're the CEO. So like, this is what we have available. This is the ultimate demands that we have on this pocket of money, and this is what I am going to do this time. And if I haven't solved all the problems, I'm going to put it on Daniela's wish list.
Yeah. Actually, when you mentioned that you provide your managers with the communication package, let's say, for different scenarios, I just wanted to probably, for someone, it can be useful. I run always before the merit cycle starts. I have a 1 hour session where I present the tool, the process, the way of working with it. I have a really nice training tool where I really provide them with all the possible scenarios. So this is really helpful when they can see it in reality. This is what you are gonna get. This is how the tool looks like. This is what you will be asked to fill in, etc. So that's very useful.
Exactly. We do the same. We do a full enablement with our managers. And actually, this enablement is available for every people manager in the company, even though the comp planners are only a fraction of all the managers. Not every manager is the comp planner, but every manager gets to go through the enablement, because again, it's the direct manager that is responsible for the final communication.
Yeah.
And Daniela, do you also do, in the same time frame when you do that in manager enablement, do you also run sessions for all employees to say, hey, we are approaching our new merit cycle, this is our philosophy, or how do you structure that in a year?
Not yet. Not. I think it will come because of the pay transparency, and that's part of the communication that basically needs to be there. So not yet. So we only train people managers basically in what they are responsible for and how they will do that. What will be asked. Yeah, and that just jumps into the question related to the gender pay gap, how we actually handle it. I included, I always mention it. It's like 3 times already. I mentioned that, hey, this is coming. We have to really treat people equally, look into the gender differences. The tool itself has different views and charts, let's say, summary, where manager can test the gender pay gap, basically. But also I included it into the main sheet, so it highlights if the person is underpaid, even after the merit. We assume that long-term performance is low, they don't have competencies, and can you please confirm this is our correct assumption? And the manager is forced or asked to answer, yes, it's correct, or the reason is different. Also, so we have it for our records for the future.
Amazing. Well, thank you both. I feel like we could go on for another hour and just talk
much more.
So maybe we do part 2, part 3, part 4. I feel like everyone would really enjoy that. But yeah, I just wanted to say a massive thank you to you both for sharing your insights. It was so valuable. Thank you to everyone in the chat as well, giving your questions as well. We love to have these sessions where obviously we have some things that we want to cover, but we love seeing what people are really wanting to hear from our speakers. So a massive thank you for coming, everyone. If anybody would like to have more conversations like this, like we said, Ekaterina and Daniela are part of our reward community. So I've just popped the link on the screen. But if not, I hope everyone has a lovely rest of your day. It's not too hot for everyone if people are based in Europe. And we will see you on the next one. So thank you all for joining.
Thank you so much.
You
it was
for
a pleasure.
inviting us. Yeah.
Thank you.
Great.